Are you serious? Are you serious? Sometimes when you just need to encourage yourself in the Lord because you never know what's going to happen next. In a world filled with absolute chaos or uncertainty, people are trepidatious, folks start getting anxious. I remind you to go to the word of the Lord. You know, the Bible tells us in the world, Jesus said, in the world you'll have trouble, but in me you'll have peace. Well, David, King David, if you go to 1 Samuel chapter 30, he had to encourage himself in the Lord. He got attacked. Matter of fact, the Amalekites came and stole all of him and his men, all of their wives and children. Let me just read to you what it says in the Bible. If you go to 1 Samuel chapter 30, it said, it came to pass that when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south, and Ziklag and had smitten Ziklag and burned it with fire, and had taken the women captive that were therein, and they slew not any, either great or small, but just carried them away and went on their way. So they stole the women and children of King David and his men. So David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captive. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice, and they wept until they had no more power to weep. You can imagine if the enemy came. You're out there fighting the enemy already, fighting on behalf of the kingdom, and you come back and your home has been invaded, your wives, your children have been stolen, and everything's been burnt to the ground at the camp at Ziklag. And they wept, and David's two wives were taken captive. Ahinoam, the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the wife of Nabal, the Carmelite. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him. His own men were so frustrated and so upset and so distraught that they thought about just killing David, because they had been following him and they'd been fighting with him. And he had promised them that he was anointed to be the king of Israel. And even though they had had to deal with all kinds of issues with the current king, King Saul, they believed David and they stood with David and they fought with David and they seen the hand of God was upon David. But right now, a major crisis. Their families had been attacked. They were ready to stone him because the soul of all the people was grieved, and every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. Are you serious? This is the moment, folks. This is the moment where you either fall and collapse, when everything is, when the enemy comes against you like a flood. This is the moment. You can either lay down and let the devil have it, or you can go to the Lord. Don't go on your own. Don't make an emotional reaction. Don't do something stupid. Matter of fact, and I say that with all respect. I used to teach AAU basketball back in Kentucky years ago, and we actually finished third in the state. Actually, I took a bunch of sophomore and freshmen and finished third in the state of Kentucky in an AAU tournament. And one of the kids that played for me went on to play for Western Kentucky University. He even finished second for Mr. Basketball. It was just a lot of fun. We had so much fun. It was great. But this one kid who hung around my son all the time, and he was almost, I've raised him almost. I mean, he's like a fourth son for me. His name was Ori. Ori said to his mother and his sisters, they were having New Year's Eve, and they got together, and they'd had a rough year. There was some things that happened in their family that was and they said, what kind of year you think we're going to have? And Ori made this statement. He said, look, we're going to have a great year this year if nobody does anything stupid. Okay. So sometimes, we get attacked. A lot of times things come against us. As long as nobody does anything absolutely insane here, we're going to be fine. But even when you are doing all the right things, even when you are standing faithful to God, sometimes we're put to the test. And even your friends may turn against you. Even your family may start to doubt you. Even those in your own household may question you. You're going to have to respond by the only way possible. Take it to the Lord in prayer. David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. He went and talked to the Lord. He prayed. He sought the face of God. And David said to Abiathar the priest and to Amalek his son, I pray thee, bring me hither the ephod. And Abiathar brought him the ephod to David. And David inquired at the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, the Lord did, and said, pursue, for thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. He had to, instead of just saying to his men, let's go get them, we'll hunt them down. No, David knew the men were distraught, knew that their faith had been weakened. They were even to the point of thinking about stoning him and moving on with their lives. David went and prayed and sought the face of the priest, asked for the ephod to hold in his hand, to get a tangible touch, to get the power of agreement, to get both the priest and his son to agree with him in prayer. Encouraged himself in the power of God and asked the Lord, what should I do? What should I do? And the Lord said, go pursue the enemy and get everything they stole from you, recover it all. So David does. And David went, he and his 600 men that were with him, and they came to the brook of Besor, where those that were left behind stayed. But David pursued. He had 400 men, for 200 of them stayed. He had 600 men, but when he got to this brook, about halfway to where they were going, 200 of them were so faint, so weak, so discouraged, they couldn't go any further. They couldn't have fought if they wanted to. David said, you know what? You guys just rest right here at the brook. I'll take the other 400 men I got left, and we'll go pursue the enemy anyway, and we will defeat them, and we will recover all, and we'll bring your wives and children to you. And the Bible tells us that they found an Egyptian in the field. They brought him to David. They gave him some bread, and he did eat, and they made him some water to drink, and he drank, and they gave him a piece of a cake of some figs, 2 clusters of raisins. This guy was in the desert, left for dead. And when he had eaten and drank some water, and got his spirit came again to him, for he had eaten no bread nor drunk any water for 3 days and 3 nights in the middle of this desert, David said unto him, to whom belongest thou? Who are you? And whence did you come from? And he said, I am a young man of Egypt, serving the Amaleks. And my master left me because I got sick. I fell sick. So 3 days ago, they just left me here in the desert. We made an invasion back in the south. And we come up on the coast, which belonged to Judah. We come up on the south of Caleb. And we burned a place called Ziklag with fire. He was a part of the enemy. But the enemy now had left their own for dead. See, it's different in the church. We don't leave our own for dead. We carry ours. We pick people up that are in having a struggle. We don't do these things. The devil has come to kill, steal, and destroy. David said to him, cast thou, bring me down to this company. Tell me where they're at, he said. And swear unto me by God that thou wilt neither kill me nor deliver me into the hands of my masters. I will take you to them. And David said, all right, we will not hand you over to them. I'm not going to kill you. You just take me to where they're at. And so this Egyptian who was left for dead took David and the 400 men and took them to the place where the Amaleks were. And the Bible tells us that they had brought him down. They were spread abroad upon all the earth. They were eating. The enemy was eating and drinking and dancing because of this great spoil that they had taken out of the land of the Philistines and out of the land of Judah. And David smote them from the twilight even to the evening of the next day. And there escaped not a man of them, save 400 young men which rode upon camels that had fled. And David let the younger guys go. And David recovered all that the Amaleks had carried away. And David rescued his 2 wives. And there was nothing lacking to them, neither small nor great, neither sons nor daughters, neither spoil nor anything that they had taken to them, David recovered all and brought back to the other 200 guys who were still waiting at the brook and said, I'm back. And here's your wives and kids. We've defeated the Amaleks. We've gotten every one of the wives, all of the children. Nothing is lost. We have recovered all. And so when the devil comes against you like a flood, when the enemy comes against you like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard. Greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. You're conquerors. You're more than conquerors through Christ that strengthens you. God has blessed you going in and going out. He will continue to bless you in every area of your life. Don't ever doubt it. You know, there's times we all go through situations. Sometimes there's readjustments. Sometimes we have to get off to ourselves. How many times did Jesus get away from even the disciples and get off to himself to pray and to seek the face of God? And then God would give him the word, would strengthen his spirit, would increase his faith. The Son of the living God had to do this. King David had to do this. I'm sure you will too. And so will I. If God be for us, who can be against us? We have the power in the name of Jesus. You're in the last days. Pray for your family. And don't let the devil have them. Recover all. I'll be back with more current world events. Don't miss today's live broadcast. My guest will be Coach Dave Dubemeyer. Look out. He's on fire. Coach Dave Dubemeyer. He's on fire today. 12 noon Eastern at my website, paulbegleyprophecy.com.